Orange Theater is a family.
Orange Theater is a home away from home.
Orange Theater is my family away from my family.
It's everything that I never knew that I always wanted to be doing in theater.
Orange Theater is home.
Orange Theater is layers.
Orange Theater is really fun to watch and really fun to be part of.
Orange Theater is a really special and unique experience.
The first Orange performance I saw was last September, their first preview of Blood Wedding, and I saw it and I thought this was like the weirdest thing I've ever seen, and this is really cool. In the back of my mind there's the thought like it would be really cool to work with these people.
We're an experimental theater company, so we're really pushing the boundaries and asking the question of what is performance and what can be done in performance. Matt talks a lot about trying to find things that can be done only in live performance. There's a certain energy that a live body in the same space brings to a performance. Where have you been?
You know that noise. Are you happy?
Yes.
And your wife?
She's resting a bit.
Bad day for brides.
Bad day? It's the only good day. For me, it was like an inheritance. The plowing of fresh ground, the planting of new trees.
Are you gonna go?
No. But yes, I need to be in my own house.
Alone?
Alone, no. My head is full of things and men and fights.
Fights that aren't fights anymore.
As long as you're alive, you fight.
As you say.
We've always kind of been highly technical. I love mixing things up with sound, and Matt and I found a really nice way to work early on where the sound isn't necessarily like door knocks and doorbells and underscoring for scenes and whatnot. We really pushed far out of that boundary in the beginning, and then now we're kind of falling back into it, but having learned a lot in the kind of like outer lands of tech and performance. So we don't necessarily use lighting and sound in the same way traditional theaters do. We use it in, we try and look a lot at dance and a lot at film and a lot of like installation things, installation pieces that are static, and we try and build a really good static frame, I think, a lot of the time.
We use lots of sound, lots of media, lots of technology in what can be considered a very old art form. We're trying to keep it interesting, not just for our audience members, but for ourselves as well.
Getting everything talking in the booth is a lot of work, and there's a lot of nitty-gritty fine-tuning that has to be done. A lot of the time we will spend 25-30 minutes just working on like a 10-second piece where someone has to interact with a screen in a certain way, and we'll rearrange it 10 different times and really like play with exactly how it's supposed to be.
Can anyone give me back your father or your brother? Yes. Prison. What is prison? They eat there, smoke, play instruments. My dead push up the grass, silently turning to dust. Two men who were like geraniums. They're killers in prison, coolly gazing at the mountains.
I am a media designer, so as we go through, we use an extensive use of multimedia in Orange's shows. We really try to tie in like televisions, B-roll footage. We use old genre films to try to find something that kind of rhymes with the source material that we're looking with and sets it off in some interesting way.
We're all a product of smartphones and iPads and that type of technology, and so it makes it really interesting to work with those things. And I think that when people come to see our shows, they see that that's a part of their life they see on the stage as well, and not just old costumes and old words that are being said.
We live in a world that's absolutely infiltrated with technological devices, but we see kind of the same representations of our interactions with that technology, in the theater or in film. So we're looking for new ways to tell old stories.
To me, it's an explosion of what theater can be. We take the aspects of bodies in space, interacting with architecture, interacting with technology. We use a lot of technology, which is one of the things that sets us a little bit more apart from more traditional theater. And instead of trying to hide that and say this is the magic, don't look behind the curtain, we try to shine the spotlight on those aspects of the performance.
Leave me alone.
There's no time to be sad. Give me the blossoms. Child, don't throw your flowers on the ground. That's tempting fate. Pick up your head.
Nope.
You don't want to get married? Say so. You can still beg forgiveness.
It's just cold feet. Doesn't everyone get those?
You love your fiance.
I love him.
The only thing that we look for in people coming into to the company is potential, and we measure that in different ways. There's interest. Interest is a big deal. If you want to be part of our company, that goes a long way. If you want to come in, after you've worked an 8-hour day and continue to work on this for another 6 hours and then go home and do it all over again, if that is something that is appetizing to you, that's a big deal. If you're interested in learning a new skill, if you're interested in learning, like Tucker, who came in, was not a media designer, and he had never even thought about it. And he came in and he's like, I want to do something. And I said, well, this is what we need. Could you be a media designer? And he was like, well, I never thought about it, but that's something. Okay, sure. But does he want to do that? I don't know. Is he going to do that for the rest of his life? I don't know. But that attitude, that willingness, he's smart, and he's curious. Curiosity is a big deal.
So we have 7, I believe, right now, permanent company members, and we are all graduates from ASU, from the School of Theater and Film there at ASU. So while we all have a very similar education from the same place, we do come from different backgrounds. Like myself and William, we both were really into classical theater when we were at ASU. That's kind of was our main focus and study. Matt was not into that. He was very much into avant-garde and experimental theater.
It does help that we all went to college together. We all went to ASU at about the same time, and all have our bachelors in theater. So we got to know each other over the course of those years. But for example, I didn't really know Matt until years after we graduated. So it's really it's similar to a journeyman theater sort of experience, in the sense that when you come into a new production, you get to know a lot of people that you've never met before, or some people that you have known sort of tangentially from the whole world. But you develop these bonds, and it really comes down to trust. So after working with Orange for 1-2 productions, we get into a groove and a mutual sense of trust that we have each other's backs.
We can only do that because we make an investment in one another. Like, I make an investment in helping you to become a better actor, and you make an investment in me by being part of my projects. And which is different, I think, than the sort of journeyman style that most theater companies and most like film actors go through, which is like, I'm coming in to a process, I have no investment in these people. So if they give me a bad direction, that's like a big crisis, because I've got to go and sell myself again to somebody else. So I've got to get really good as quickly as possible so that I can even get the experience that I need to get better. That's a terrible conundrum.
When you usually work in a traditional setting, you're there for 7 weeks of rehearsal, and then you have 4 or 5 weeks of shows, or depending on how long your run is. But after that, you kind of disperse, and you might not ever see these people again. And with Orange Theater, we've all been working together so long, and we created this community to where we all trust and love one another and work as a family. So we bring all of these pieces to the puzzle, and a lot of our scripts and work is tailored to our community.
It is a lot like a family. We all known each other for a while now. We have a groove. I think everybody understands that we're all individuals, but we all participate in this thing together.
I think one of the strengths of Orange is that we take what each person brings to the table and use that as the raw material for what we make, like in terms of process and product.
I heard she had a fiancé a while back.
She
She was about 15. He got married to a cousin of hers a couple years ago, by the way. Nobody remembers the engagement.
How come you remember then?
You asked me.
A person has the right to look into something that may hurt them. Who was the man?
I guess maybe why I am passionate about experimental theater is a combination of a passion for being able to make the work live, to be able to explore what performance is, to be able to make performance in real time with a group of people that I care deeply about, but not being hemmed in by the conventions of narrative. There's this book by a really great, brilliant director named Anne Bogart, who runs the City Company, and she's written several books on the process of making art, and there's an entire chapter in one of her books that you could basically summarize as make something with what you've got right now. And so that really hit me. We never have enough. We're never at the starting point, at a good starting point. And if we were to wait for the right conditions to come along, we would never start.
Matt and I have known each other for a long time. His work as a director, as really a creator overall, is so all-encompassing and it's a cliche, but really creative and innovative.
Matt's our director, but it's very much a group effort, everything that goes on there. When we're very, very first starting a project, we spend weeks not even doing anything, just talking, and then going away and bringing in materials that may influence that. And once we start on our feet working on a project, sometimes we tend to move away from those things a little bit, but it's always really fulfilling as an artist to know that maybe this one gesture that I did comes from 6 months of talking about a movie or a character or something like that, and it's to see the evolution like that, and that only comes when we all bring something to the table.
Training is crucial. I firmly believe that people are capable of learning to be good actors. It's just a matter of having the right mindset and access to ongoing experience.
Just over the last 6 months before we started working on Blood Wedding for the ASU performance, we looked at a lot of different plays. We looked at Chekhov, we looked at Wojciech, and we would read through them together as a group, and then everybody kind of just switch off doing different roles as we're reading it. And simultaneously, while we're looking at material, we're also going through different exercises. We did a lot of different physical and performance exercises that we had never done before. The process is something along the lines of Matt and Joya collecting material that they think will be interesting, everyone sitting down together and processing it. It's like spaghetti. We throw stuff up on the wall and see what sticks.
We take a script, Matt likes to call them boring scripts, and break them down and decide what the good parts are and what the bad parts are.
Since life is still hidden from your own eyes, you're bolder, more honorable, and deeper than us, but just think.
That's horrible. What is she saying? That's horrible. I can't stand it. I'm going. 11 years. Why are you crying, Masha, you silly? No, I'm starting.
It's nothing.
Where did you live?
Old Past Manning Street.
So did we.
Later, I lived on German Street. From German Street, I walked to the Red Barracks. I had to pass over a gloomy bridge. Alone, crossing that bridge, just to hear the water made me sad.
A kind friend.
You know I sympathize wholeheartedly.
But you should say that differently. Differently.
None of us are geniuses. We're learning together and we're growing together. It's a space in which anything can happen, really. We could make a movie and call it theater. Or we can make a sculpture and put it inside of a theater piece and have it be there and it works. It's really like, I think the most open platform. We can make, like I get to design structures and put them in there, but then people come in and use them. And it's not limited to just the architecture. We do live music. It's got all of the, like everything that I've ever been interested in has a place in theater, and particularly in experimental theater.
We are using text in a different way than traditional theater, and we are not as concerned with storytelling in the traditional sense, but there is an experience crafting that's going on, and I think that comes out of a long tradition of experimental theater.
We also do a lot of like imagery work. We create tableaus or images to go along with that scene, and then we work from there. We also do a lot of improv with our work, especially with the movement pieces.
We have a lot of freedom to try different approaches to text or material, so we don't have to be bound by the normal rules of naturalistic theater to say, oh, I have to think of my motivation and accurately portray the emotions that I suppose this character to have. We can acknowledge that those things exist in any given scene or any given time, but we can also choose to heighten certain aspects or draw them out or play with them in a certain way of saying, this is the emotional tone of a scene that we've discovered, but we can hyper-realize that or really subdue it.
I'm going to dress her now.
The bride, she must be happy.
Well, how's the baby?
What baby?
Your son.
Oh.
Are you bringing him?
No.
Don't come out like that.
What does it matter? Why did you ask if he brought the orange blossom? What did you mean by that?
Nothing. What did you think I meant? You know me, you know I didn't mean anything. Tell me, who was I to you? Let me refresh your memory. 2 oxen, an ugly shack, practically nothing. That's what stings.
Why are you here?
To see your wedding.
Like I saw yours?
Forced into it by you, tied by your 2 hands. They can kill me, but now they can't spit on me, though their silver that shines so brightly spits sometimes.
That's a lie!
Blood Wedding was a really good learning experience for us. We're also learning how to get the audience to look where we want them to look when it's a really important moment for them to do so. And then there's other moments where we want to leave it up to them, where their eyes might wander, on the stage, because again, it'll make for a different experience for everybody. And that's really unique about our work.
We're pretty good at creating focus on stage. We talk about the actors in their exercises, they talk about how they can become Hamlet, because Hamlet is always about this guy who struts around and the attention's on him. So we do a lot of work about how we can make Katrina Hamlet in that moment, or how we can make William Hamlet, or how we can make the downstage left television Hamlet for 10 seconds or 30 seconds at a time and draw your eye around the stage, but it should never really feel comfortable resting even when we create focus.
Matt is definitely good about keeping interest everywhere on stage. Everywhere you look, there's something going on, or even stillness is something to look at on stage.
There's a lot of people. Go look.
I did look.
Then where is she?
Nothing. She's nowhere.
They've run away. She and Leonardo on his horse, wrapped in each other's arms. They've just rushed past.
That's not true. Not my daughter, no.
Yes, your daughter. She's the butt of an evil plant, and he's the same.
Why you dream naked watching over the field like a dog? That's what I am. When I look at you, your beauty burns me.
One fire scorches another. One small flame burns both sprigs to the ground. Let's go.
Where are you taking me?
Where the men closing in on us can't go. Where I can look at you.
Take me from fear to fear. Shame at every honest woman so people can see me with my wedding sheet flying like a flag in the air.
If I thought like those people, I would leave you. But I'm going where you go, and you'll go where I go. Take a step. Try. Nails of moonlight join my waist to your hips.
Hear that?
There's not a huge experimental art scene, and we're trying not just to have individual shows that go off well, but we're trying to build seasons that will bring in return theater goers and return art lovers to try to bolster the Phoenix art scene, and I think that's really important work too.
what we've done and what we've created, it's different and it's not of the norm. So it's a good conversation piece.
One of the ways that I think about it is like food and cooking, right? So we take a little bit of this raw ingredient and we take a little bit of this herb or spice and we put them together in a certain combination, and then it's something that you've never had before.
We get a lot of flack from people that don't necessarily like our work. They are very vocal about it, and a lot of people just don't understand that what we're trying to do is something different. We're not trying to conform to these social norms of the theater, traditional theater. So.
That's what got me into it, and that's what I like about it, and that's what I like about life, is not knowing things and asking questions that don't necessarily have a clear answer.
You know, and it means that we're always shifting. What was good enough yesterday might not be good enough tomorrow. That might not be interesting after we've seen it play out. So everybody has to be pretty flexible in that. But I think we found a way of working. You know, that we found some techniques that work well for us, that work, you know, for the actors and designers and the whole team, and that's really exciting too, because I'm as interested in process as I am in product, you know, in terms of figuring out new ways of working.
So a lot of my process over the last 5 or 6 years has been getting in touch with that tradition. It's really difficult in Phoenix because it doesn't sort of permeate this area.
I think theater has evolved. I mean, it's always constantly evolving, but like now, you know, people of our generation and the younger generations need more. The theater's a dying art right now. Not a lot of people are going to see theater. No one wants to go see, well, I shouldn't say that. Not a lot of people want to go see Oklahoma every weekend, you know, so we bring something new and fresh to old material. So
I want them to feel like they just saw something live and vibrant, and that comes out of the same culture that they do, that isn't somehow separate from their own experience, but reflects that experience in some weird, blown up kind of way.
I guess I do. I was president of her local fan club. Why?
Hey, boy! Park that car out front and don't wrinkle them fenders.
She and Chance Wang checked in last night.
Well, I'll be a dog's mother. I'm going to look into that. Miss Lucy now exits. Chance! 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Quiet.
I'll go alone from here. Go back. I want you to go.
Quiet, I said.
With your teeth, with your hands, have you can't cut them out of this chain from out of second. We need a corner passage. If you won't give me like a little paper, please, my right hand's the back of your rifle. Oh, what grief, what fire into the mayhem. That's my tongue.
We've already done it. Hush. They're coming closer, and I have to take you with me.
Then you'll have to force me.
Force you? Who went down the stairs first?
I did.
Who put a fresh bridle on my horse?
I did, it's true.
And whose hands fasten my spurs?
These hands that are yours, when they see you, they want to rip out the blue branches of your bosom knees. I love you. I love you. Get back.
I want to give the audience something that doesn't anticipate what they should get out of it.
I hope that they're affected in some way how I was. If it's their first exposure to experimental theater, I hope it piques their curiosity, and I hope that they have just an experience that they can't quite quantify to a certain extent.
I'd like everybody to be able to go out after the show, have a drink, slice of pie, sit down, talk it out, and say, this is what I saw and this is what I liked, or this is something that I saw that nobody else saw. For everybody to be able to share at least one thing different that they noticed that nobody else caught.
I want them to be entertained, of course. You know, there's that part of me that always wants somebody to be entertained, and that doesn't always mean liking the show or laughing at the show, you know? I think that one of the most rewarding things that I've encountered with people who've seen Orange's work is that 1 week later, 1 month later, 6 months later, they go, I still think about that. I still think about that show, and every time I think about it, something new pops up for me.
I want them to be able to go home and have a conversation about it. It's not necessarily if they liked it or didn't like it. I want them to be able to talk about it and bring up ideas or something about what we've done and what we've created. It's different and it's not of the norm. So it's a good conversation piece.
For me, it's not about like what the audience gets to take away. Like we want them to feel a certain way by doing that, but like, can we kind of shatter this image that they're looking at and the sound world that they're looking at just enough to expose the cracks so not everybody comes away with the same thing.
Everybody has some capacity to have an experience with our work, whether it's intellectual, whether it's sensual, whether it's political, you know, whatever they want to bring in. If all you come out of the theater with is I enjoyed this song, or I liked these colors, or I thought that this play meant this, or I learned this lesson. Any of those experiences are okay, and I don't want to be the one to say the moral lesson is the important thing, or just look at the colors. People have come up to me and said like this play, I got this out of it, and they seem very passionate about it. And for me to be like, no, that's not what it's about, would be to rob them of something that could be very important to them. So
the parts that you caught are the parts that you found most interesting, and that's really beautiful. And if you come back and you see it again, maybe you'll see different parts come out, but that's more about your own experience as an audience goer.
I want to create something that can participate in this cultural conversation and then give it up and let it just be whatever it's going to be for the individual audience.
And if people want to come back and see it again, then I think we've done our job.
So come back.